Are you like a crazy person?
I'm quite sure they will say so.
Oh yes, the ghost in the van.
Speaking of ghosts, what about the death wobble?
And if you try to power through it, like speed up, it gets worse.
And the watermelon rolled forward and crushed it.
Hi, welcome to Comedy Parenting Radio, the only show that vigorously rubs hot sauce into your sunburns.
We want to give a shout out to all our friends and relatives who have stayed with us this summer. You guys left so much stuff behind that, well, we're going to start our own thrift shop. Today, we're going to be talking about vans.
I like wearing Vans.
We'll be right back.
Steven.
Who said that?
Me, down here.
Ugh, what are you, a yellow booger?
I'm a banana slug, Steven.
What are you doing in my room?
I'm your sense of adventure. It's been a long time since we've had an adventure in the forest.
Mom took me to the forest last year.
I'm a slug, Steven. It took me a long time to get here.
You're right. I should get out.
Yeah, the forest is not that far away.
Hey, Mom!
Come to the forest where the more adventurous you lives. Check out discovertheforest.org for cool places nearby. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Comedy,
Parenting.
Radio.
All right, you're back with Comedy Parenting Radio. We got a big old 15-passenger van at our house. And what's one of the coolest things that we carry in our van?
Motorcycles.
Yes, motorcycles.
oh yeah,
Yes.
motorcycles.
What kind of motorcycles?
Dirt bikes.
Yeah, how many dirt bikes can we stuff into our van?
4.
Yep.
Including the food and our bikes.
All the equipment, the whole dirt biking package goes in there. Pogo sticks, mountain skateboards.
Cooler full of drinks,
Kitchen sink.
the microwave.
You know, we go dirt biking for the day. What else do we carry in our van that's a little bit unusual?
Wood, firewood.
How much firewood?
Well, so much wood, in fact, that we put plywood on the windows so we don't accidentally bust out the windows, as well as the fact that while we were loading, Dad just scrapes up the top of the ceiling with how much wood we put in.
What about the worst thing that we carry in the van?
Trash.
What's the matter with trash?
Juicy garbage.
And it stinks to high heavens, so much so that you have to put in black ice air fresheners.
Don't talk to me about black ice air freshener. I about died the last time we did that.
Well, don't talk to me about the sea breeze or watermelon or whatever it is, because I just about died when you put that one in.
Look, you gotta haul trash sometime.
Once every 6 weeks.
Okay, so it's a van full of trash.
And it smells almost as bad as Josiah's socks.
I'm not going to put a partition in between the trash and your seat.
You should smell Elijah's socks.
Elijah's using my socks.
We try to drive the van down to the trash early in the day before the sun gets high in the sky and things tend to odoriferise.
But then there was that one time when we were down valley and you had to stop at the bank to get money to go dump off the trash.
They hate it when you dump off trash and you come back and go, no money. It's not like washing dishes at a restaurant.
No, it's not like you can go run the loader. So you had gotten money so that you could pay to dump the trash and got back in the van, and the van didn't start.
Nothing like being broken down at the bank with a van full of trash.
And we had to have it towed to the dealership.
Oh my. I forgot. And then the entire van was full of trash sitting at the dealership.
They hated our guts.
The lady called me and said, do you mind if I take the trash out of your van before we work on the car? I said, no. And so they charged me about $200 extra for fixing the car, for taking the trash out of the van.
$200 trash dump.
What about the ghost that we have in our van?
Yes, the ghost appears often.
What about the van? What about the ghost in the van?
Yes, the ghost.
What about the ghost in the van?
Oh yes, the ghost in the van, which is what happens when Dad puts his which is what happens when Dad puts his hot coffee down on the which is what happens which is what happens when Dad puts his hot coffee down on the dashboard and the fog goes up on the windshield, so he puts a little 2 eyes and mouth on it.
Ah, and the one thing that it does when the ghost appears, that means bad luck for your toys that are in the van, because the ghost is going to take them and stuff them down a crack.
You're listening to Comedy Parenting Radio, and we're talking about our van and vans in general. We'll be right back.
3 wheels on my wagon, and I'm still rolling along. The Cherokees are chasing me, arrows fly right on by, but I'm singing a happy song. I'm singing.
Are you a failure as a parent or grandparent? Do your little ones cry for no apparent reason?
Do you have lots of money?
If you answered yes to these or any other invasive questions, we have good news for you. Treesock Press was named after a cat.
A very cute cat.
Treesock Press printed a book. That book is available in nearly indestructible hardback form and is printed with non-toxic ink so your little dinosaur can virtually eat the book. If this all seems too good to be true, you can go buy a cheap Disney book that's printed in China. Books printed in China aren't as good for teething toddlers as ones printed in Wisconsin.
What's the name of our book?
Dad the Tooth Fairy Didn't Come. This book is funnier than a root canal on a sinking ship.
I didn't know ships had teeth.
Order your copies of Dad the Tooth Fairy Didn't Come from Amazon today. Or tomorrow if you're on the international date line.
You are listening to Comedy Parenting Radio.
Comedy
Parenting Radio. Comedy Parenting Radio.
Speaking of ghosts, what about the death wobble?
It's gonna make us ghosts.
Well, you can't help the death wobble all the time.
For those who don't know what the death wobble is, it's essentially when you're driving down the road and you hit a bump or something. I'm not entirely sure what triggers it. Sometimes it's just stepping on your brakes, but the entire front of the van starts shaking back and forth violently.
Violently is an understatement. It's pretty scary, even for the driver.
The death wobble sounds like a strange dance move.
And if you try to power through it, like speed up, it gets worse.
Yeah, we tried that the other day, didn't we? Here comes a death wobble. I think this time I'll step on the gas pedal, and that'll just make it stop. No, now we're going really fast down the road doing the death wobble, so then I slammed on the brakes and left black marks on the highway.
And everything slid to the front of the car, including my Legos. And the ghost was on the windshield that day. Ooh.
When it happens, though, it feels like the entire front axle is going to pop off, wheels and all.
It probably could. And when we slammed on the brakes and everything came forward, that van is so long that the stuff in the back of the van comes rolling all the way to the front.
I lost a pair of sunglasses to something that rolled forward. It was a watermelon, and I had my pair of sunglasses was lying next to me, and it was clear in the back of the van. It rolled over every single other grocery that was in the back of the van, underneath all 3 rows of seats, and came up right next to the gear shift and squashed my glasses, so they were bent and crushed.
Watermelons do great destruction in our vans, like just this week, right, Elijah?
Right. Dad saw a bicyclist on the road, and he slammed on his brakes, and the watermelon rolled forward and crushed the side of my birthday cake.
That was like a birthday pie.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how our van won't start, and why, and when, and where.
This morning I went out to start the van for Dad, and I got out there, turned the key, and it doesn't turn on. Doesn't make sense, so I go in and talk to Dad. He said, you have to put it in neutral. I go outside and I try putting it in neutral for about 10 minutes. I come back inside, tell Dad the van still won't start, and I can't put it in neutral. He comes outside and puts it in neutral, turns on the van in like 5 seconds. Yay.
Dad power.
The van likes me.
I've been gone for a week. It thinks I'm a stranger.
Well, the reason that the van likes me is because I've been driving it exclusively to work for the last 3 weeks, and that's because the green car doesn't work.
Yep.
We need a mechanic in the family.
I am a mechanic. I just don't have any time to do anything.
We need a paid mechanic in the family that we can not pay to do our mechanic work.
If there are any paid mechanics out there that would like to live with us and eat mashed potatoes with pickles on top, fill out an application after the show.
And don't forget the Velveeta cheese.
We don't hire Velveeta cheese. We're talking about vans. You guys were just in a van recently, right, Josh and Courtney?
A church van.
How many miles do you estimate you went?
1,000.
So what's it like being in a van for 1,000 miles with other teenagers?
Well, it was very interesting because the van itself was very squeaky. Very, very annoying. My friend kept on shoving pieces of paper in the squeaky doors and window ledges.
Seriously squeaky?
Seriously squeaky.
That van is the same year as ours, same model and everything, and it squeaks?
Squeaks.
Ours just rattles.
And the door pops open in the back.
While you're going down the road?
Mm-hmm.
Not fully pops open, but it just sort of loosens one notch.
So only the front door is keeping the back door. The back door latch pops. So it pops open, you hear tsh of the road behind you.
Did it suck gasoline smells in?
No.
Okay.
The one thing that I really liked about the seat was that every single seat was comfortable, and it was cloth seating instead of ripped up plastic.
The edges are curling up and becoming like knives.
Speak up, because you can. Your mind is a powerful tool, and so is your freedom of speech. So use it. It's what separates you from being a number to being an individual. Thoughts, beliefs, opinions, creativity. It's what makes you, you. Stand proud and say aloud. Know your rights. Know your freedom to speak. This message is brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters, Education Foundation, and the Broadcast Education Association.
Looking for a better way.
You're listening to Comedy Parenting Radio.
Ooh, I'm driving my life away. I'm looking for a sunny day.
Welcome back to Comedy Parenting Radio.
One time I drove a van full of kids to a camp, and I knew it was going to be a problem because it would be like many, many hours. And so I made rules of the van, and I posted it on the visor. And so when the van was completely full of people, right before we left, I said, okay, I've got rules for the van. And I pulled down the visor and had them written out 1, 2, 3. And the first one, and I read it out loud. Number 1, don't hassle the driver. Number 2, don't hassle your neighbor. Rule number 3, if you hassle your neighbor or the driver will play his Barry Manilow tape. And I popped in a Barry Manilow tape right then and had it cranked up. And all the kids were holding their ears going, please, please, no, 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 no. And so they were good for the entire trip. No one ever hassled anybody because they didn't want to have the Barry Manilow tape going in. And then I had rule number 4, you can hassle your neighbor as loud as you want while you're in a tunnel. And on the way to that camp, we had to go through about 4 different tunnels maybe. And so as soon as we go into the tunnel, it was like complete mayhem, yelling and screaming and blah, blah, blah. And then as soon as we came out of the tunnel, it was zip, no sound.
So that's why we do that whenever we go through the tunnels.
That's exactly where the tradition came from. You know, I'm not the only person that ever drove people in a van.
You didn't know that.
My grandpa used to drive Amish around in a van, and he was so short that he couldn't reach the pedals of the van.
What did he do?
He screwed wooden blocks onto the pedals so he could push the clutch to the floor.
That's most definitely safe.
Okay, you've been listening to Comedy Parenting Radio. We're talking about vans. We want to thank everybody for coming in the studio today, guys.
Welcome.
You're welcome.
And when you guys go, why don't you go ahead and put on all these dust masks and get in the van, okay?
I'd rather have a gas mask.
Bye-bye.
What was the name of the group of 3 cigars that are considered the masters of slapstick comedy?
What?
The Three Stogies.